When Helen turned 60, she noticed a quiet shift in her life. The phone rang less often, invitations dwindled, and the doorbell rarely chimed. At first, she thought it was others pulling away, but she soon realized something deeper. She herself had started avoiding people. At 70, Helen wasn't lonely. In fact, she found a calmness in solitude that she'd never fully appreciated in her younger years. She sat in her garden most mornings, sipping tea as the sun lit up her flowers. It was during one of these mornings that her neighbor, Jim, asked why she didn't come to the weekly community coffee hour anymore. "I'm not as social as I used to be," she replied with a soft smile. Jim nodded, but she could tell he didn't quite understand. After he left, she leaned back in her chair and thought about why she'd started to prefer quiet company. Her own. There were 6 reasons she could name, and they were rooted in something more profound than just age. 1. Prioritizing emotional energy. When Helen was younger, she attended every gathering, every family reunion, every social obligation. She listened to people vent their frustrations, offered advice, and gave her time freely. But as she aged, she realized her emotional energy wasn't limitless. Conversations she once navigated easily now felt draining. She began to conserve her energy for people who brought warmth and positivity into her life. This shift wasn't selfish, it was self-care. 2. Heightened self-awareness. With age came introspection. Helen had learned to recognize which interactions left her feeling uplifted and which left her feeling exhausted or empty. Small talk about inconsequential matters, arguments about politics, or shallow gossip no longer appealed to her. She had a deeper understanding of herself, and with that, a natural inclination to avoid situations that didn't align with her values or peace of mind. 3. The comfort of routine and familiarity. As the years passed, Helen found comfort in her own home, her daily walks, her books, and her garden. These familiar routines were soothing, grounding her in a way that social gatherings couldn't. The unpredictability of social settings, the forced interactions, the pressure to entertain, it all felt less appealing than the simple, predictable joys she created for herself. 4. Reduced tolerance for drama and negativity. In her youth, Helen tolerated dramatic friends, listened patiently to others' grievances, and tried to mediate conflicts. But as she grew older, her patience for such dynamics waned. She learned that not every problem needed her involvement, not every conflict required her perspective. By avoiding people who thrived on drama or constant negativity, she protected her mental well-being. 5. The need for meaningful connections. Helen realized she wasn't avoiding people entirely. She was avoiding shallow connections. She still cherished long conversations with her sister, quiet dinners with her lifelong friend, and moments of laughter with her grandson. But she no longer felt obligated to engage with everyone simply for the sake of being social. She valued depth over breadth, and this natural filtering wasn't loneliness, it was a refined appreciation for meaningful relationships. 6. Acceptance of mortality and time's preciousness. As Helen grew older, the reality of mortality became clearer. Time was no longer an abstract concept. It was a precious commodity. She thought carefully about how she wanted to spend it. Hours spent in draining company or at events that didn't bring her joy felt wasteful. Instead, she chose to spend her time reading, writing letters, tending her garden, and reflecting. It wasn't avoidance. It was a conscious choice to embrace what truly mattered to her. Helen thought of all these reasons as she sat in the garden that morning. The wind rustled the leaves, and a bird sang from a nearby tree. She realized that aging didn't make her antisocial. It made her discerning. She wasn't pulling away from people because of bitterness or sadness. She was simply learning to honor her own needs and cherish the moments she had left. When her daughter called that evening, Helen picked up the phone with a smile. "Mom," her daughter said, "you didn't come to the family barbecue last weekend. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Helen assured her. "I just needed a little quiet time. I've been enjoying the garden and doing a bit of reading." Her daughter was quiet for a moment. "I worry sometimes that you're isolating yourself." Helen laughed gently. "I'm not isolating, dear. I'm simply choosing how to spend my time. I love you all dearly, and I'll come to the next gathering. But it's normal, to seek more solitude as we get older. It helps me feel peaceful and content." Her daughter sighed, but she sounded relieved. "As long as you're happy, Mom, I am, Helen said, and she meant it. As she hung up the phone, she felt a lightness in her chest. Aging had brought her many gifts: wisdom, self awareness, and a deeper understanding of what she truly valued. She wasn't avoiding people out of sadness or fear. She was simply learning to embrace the quiet joys of her own company and to protect her time like the precious gift it was. Helen looked out at the evening sky, tinged with shades of pink and gold, and smiled to herself. This chapter of her life wasn't about isolation. It was about coming home to herself.